Scaring people is a lot harder than you think, especially if it's a movie or a game. You can't just have some blood and guts and call it a day. That's why so many games employ both jump scares and, get this, jump scares that aren't actually life-threatening. It's novel, breaks up the flow, and creates tension over whether the next scare is legit or just a prank. So let's take a look at 15 games that have jump scares when really they're just playing around. Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion. Come on, it's literally the name of the game. You traverse from room to room, waiting for the inevitable jump scare. Most of them are pretty harmless though, consisting of cutouts of bread and other lame things. Of course, you eventually encounter the sinister notes, and then the monsters, and suddenly things aren't so lame. Dead Space 2. Titan Elementary School is perhaps one of the most disturbing places in the entire game. Aside from the drawings depicting different necromorphs before Titan Station went crazy, it's where all of the necromorph kids came from. When venturing onto the stage part, you half expect to be attacked by something behind all of the scenery, and then a cartoon sun drops from the ceiling. Fun fact, the development team almost cut it from the game. Dark Souls 3. After entering the Irithyll dungeon, claiming the first bonfire, and making your way down further, you'll notice a cell open on the left. And there's an item on a corpse. Items are neat. Of course, after grabbing the item, the corpse lets out one last blood-curdling scream before dying for good. You'd think you're being attacked, but no, it's just there to freak you out. Amnesia: The Dark Descent. If it isn't the hissing of the cockroaches causing false alarms, then it's the general atmosphere of the estate. One such example, which sets the tone for the mind games to come, is when you venture down into the laboratory. As you approach a seemingly caved-in entrance, the music swells, dust emanates from the entrance, and your vision goes slightly out of focus. Say what you will, but this was absolutely terrifying back then. Batman: Arkham City. The Batman Arkham series wasn't above its share of jump scares, especially Batman Arkham City. If you head to the industrial district, there's a small, inconspicuous boat out on the water. Hack into it with your cryptographic sequencer, and you'll find a room with cockroaches and a Joker henchman slumped over in a chair. Zoom into his face, and he'll come alive in horror before falling unconscious. Of course, this Arkham Knight hint wasn't the only jump scare. Many more, like Killer Croc, the T-Rex in the Museum of Natural History, etc., can be found. Resident Evil 7. The Baker family forms the core of most scares, but Resident Evil 7 has plenty of other tools to scare you. Old Evelyn in her wheelchair just suddenly appearing without any explanation or doing anything? Check. Baby dolls falling from above in a gunk-covered room, despite no hole in the ceiling or anyone else present. Yep. Capcom was not messing around when it wanted to go back to the series' trademark horror, and we're happy, but also kind of not. PT had plenty of real scares to go around, most of them starting with Lisa and ending in expletive. That being said, the bathroom isn't all that bad. There's a sequence where the door slightly opens and crying can be heard, before Lisa appears to pull the door shut, but it doesn't end with your death. Even when you find out what is crying in the bathroom, you still survive. Silver linings, right? Until Dawn. Following the deaths of Hannah and Beth, the story fast forwards a year and sees the gang back together at Blackwood Mountain at the behest of Josh. This entire sequence is just one false scare after another, whether it's Sam and Chris freaking Jessica out unintentionally, or Mike intentionally scaring Matt and Emily. Of course, as the pattern dictates, the real scares start very, very quickly.
To keep out strangers! Hey.
What?
Hey.
What the hell?
Boom. You just got mugged.
Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. The Ocean House Hotel seems more or less haunted. That much can be agreed upon, even though the whole deal is essentially a reference to The Shining. But this malevolent entity seems more intent on messing around rather than actual harm, aside from the fire in the kitchen. Lamps breaking suddenly, the lobby chandelier shaking and falling. You half expect something to stab or stake you in the back early on, but nothing does. Life is Strange, Episode 3. Breaking and entering Blackwell Academy to search for clues in the principal's office, well, what could possibly go wrong? Well, aside from the explosion and avoiding the head of security and so on and so forth. But the actual biggest fright comes when Max is on her way to school and Chloe jumps out of nowhere yelling "Booyah!" because boo is what most ghosts say. This is not doing much for your survival, Chloe.
Get it? Booyah. Like I'm a scary punk ghost.
Doom 3. Forget all the monster closets. The real biggest fright in Doom 3 occurred in the bathroom. Upon gazing into a mirror, all sorts of hellish effects manifested. Alas, it led to nothing, and even worse is that id Software spoiled this moment in initial trailers for the game. If this is a horror shooter, you might want to keep all of the more legit scares a secret. Just saying. Outlast. Outlast is not a fan of letting up. The scares are steadily paced and won't give you much time to recover before the insanity swells once again. The beginning is a perfect example. Mount Massive Asylum seems creepy enough, but then you open the door to the library. A hanging corpse can be seen, accompanied with the trademark orchestral spike. The corpse drops and is seemingly harmless, but things get so much worse from there that it's not even funny. F.E.A.R. Monolith Productions' F.E.A.R. is actually an interesting case, because the many times that Alma does appear, it's to attempt murder. So you quickly begin to associate her presence with really bad stuff going down. There are two exceptions to this though. One is when climbing down a ladder and turning around to see little Alma looming over you. The ladder breaks and you fall, but Point Man is fine for the most part. The other instance is when traveling in an elevator. The lights flicker, Alma briefly appears, and then the lights go out, but she's nowhere to be seen. The Point Man is still in one piece though. Silent Hill. Silent Hill 2 may appear more when discussing excellent psychological horror titles, but the original game also had its fair share of scares. When exploring the elementary school's locker room, you come across a locker door that's shaking. Cue dramatic pause, open it up, and a cat pops out before walking away. Come back later and the same locker is shaking again while blood leaks. Open it once more, and still nothing aside from all of the blood. It's immediately followed by a corpse popping out of another locker though. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.